Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Letting Go. I am your host, Chobaka, and before I begin, I just want to make sure and thank everybody for your support of the first episode. All of your comments, they were very supportive and very constructive and very helpful to me, and I just want to express my gratitude to you for supporting this mission of mine. Because it is very important to me to share this information with you, because awareness is the first step in avoidance of any type of dangers, be they playing injuries or neurological stuff that you don't know exists. So anyway, thank you so much. And in this in this episode, we are going to get to basically the trajectory of my musical life from when I started and then all the way up until the development of dystonia. And we're going to kind of not obsessively pick apart and kind of see where the dots connect and how that works. And it's going to be very informational for young musicians. So definitely young musicians, pay attention. You can learn a lot from my story because it's going to get you to understand one thing, and that there are two areas in music that need to be aligned. All right, if you want to do this full time as a professional, okay. And by professional, what I mean is actually basing your life's your life stream, your income, support of your family or support of yourself if you don't have a family. But basically, you are going to be using music to pay your bills and to create your life. All right. If you want to do that, this is the episode for you, because you need to align your abilities and your mind, okay? And if those two things are not aligned, then you're going to have some issues. So learn from this episode and let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome back. And this is the first segment of episode 2 of Letting Go. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about my musical history, okay? So I started with music in both a conventional and unconventional way. So I always loved music as a little boy. And whenever we would go to restaurants, I would always just be enamored and hypnotized by any type of live music, whether it was a quartet, a trio, or full mariachi. It didn't matter to me. And but specifically, it was with Mexican music. There was something about the sound to Mexican music that I just loved. And my parents did take note of this, so much so that in '95, I was about 9 or 10 years old, they took me for the first time to a music festival that happens every year in Albuquerque, the Mariachi Spectacular. And I got to hear Mariachi Cobre for the first time there. And they weren't, my parents didn't know whether or not I was going to be able to take a full night of mariachi. Here I'm a 10-year-old kid, and, I could fall asleep or be bored, and these concerts would last for a long time, So they put me next to the aisle to make sure that I would at least be able to kind of peek and see, as well as listen. And I was just floored. And I specifically remember when Mariachi Cobre entered onto the stage and played their first notes, and it was like, that was it. I mean, I needed to hear no more. The rest of the night was easy for me. I was on the edge of my seat the rest of the night. But particularly, there was something about their sound. It was the life that was in their sound. There was a purity and an energy of it that was so musical. Even though I didn't know what that meant at the time, it just always attracted me, their particular sound. And so I knew that I wanted to keep this going in my life somehow. So I would listen to the albums over and over and over again. But being that I couldn't start playing a musical instrument right away, my parents got me involved in dance, in ballet folklorico. And then so in folklorico, I learned a lot of the rhythms, the regions, and I got this kind of into my my own personal rhythm and take on the music. I got this into my body, really. I mean, quite literally. I mean, I'm dancing, right? And I learned the rhythms of Jalisco and the Huasteco regions and Veracruz, the Jarocho. and of course all the polkas from the norte, and it was just like, this is kind of where I started to really grasp the roots of the different types of styles within the mariachi, even before I started playing music. And then I started playing violin in middle school. And I wanted to play trumpet. My parents said no. I hope I'm not going to embarrass them with this. And then I wanted to play percussion and tried to use the excuse that, my dad was a percussionist before. And they're like, no, And both of my parents, they had played a little bit of music back in their time, but nothing, in our house. It was really no more than just really listening. A lot of listening to music in our house. But they said, no, you're going to play the violin. That's just what you're going to do. So I was like, okay. So I played the violin, and thank God for that, because obviously, right? So that's what I do now for a living. But it started me, kind of in the, I guess in the orchestral mode, in the classical way of learning how to play an instrument. And by classical, I don't mean classical music. I mean just as far as the technique development that helps you to play your instrument efficiently and to get the best sound and all that kind of thing, right? And in a healthy position, all those things. And so I started doing these things together. So I danced folklorico, and then I played in orchestra violin. And then by the time I got to high school, I had picked up the guitar, and I still remember, sneaking up into the closet and kind of tapping down my dad's guitar. I had piled up a bunch of stuff that I could crawl on and get it. And then it had like 4 strings on it, all out of tune, and I didn't even know, and just plunking out stuff. But I loved it. And I still remember my mom peeking in, and I can still see her out of my peripheral vision. And, I don't know what she told my dad, but a couple of weeks later I had guitar lessons, So I was in guitar lessons as well, violin lessons, and dance. So I was just rolling around in the musical mud, so to speak. And and then so by the time I got to high school, there was a mariachi program there, and I was very lucky because it was the only one in the schools, in high school, I think, at the time in Albuquerque, at St. Pius X Catholic High School. And Mr. Valenzuela was my teacher, and thank God for him as well, because he also had that same want for quality, and he was a jazz musician, typically, classically trained, but he was a jazz musician. But he loved mariachi music, and he wanted to promote it in the healthiest way possible. And I think because of that, his ear was also very much attracted to mariachi cobre. And so when I found this out, it was like, that was a nice connection to have with him. And it was something that really promoted the musicianship, I think, with him and me, and his development of me in high school. And so, but in the mariachi, I wanted to play armonía, because I was just really attracted to the rhythms, probably from dancing for so long. And so I played violin in orchestra, I played guitar in jazz band, and I played armonía in high school, in the mariachi. But I was also taking private lessons, violin lessons as well, and I was taking from the assistant concertmaster of the New Mexico Symphony at the time, Joseph Zeckler. He's since passed on. May he rest in peace. And with him, I had, just the development of my violin playing, of course, but he always supported me learning mariachi music. He even went to my first gig, I remember. And he didn't have to do that, but him and his wife, Joan, they went to my first mariachi gig. And to have that type of support from your orchestra teacher, was amazing. And especially being that he was from the symphony, it was just like, they respected music, and later on I learned that he actually spent time in orchestras in South America and whatnot. But they respected music, not just orchestra or whatever you say, classical. They respected music. And so that's a huge influence on a student. And so that was really awesome because I still remember the lesson. And he told me, "Hey, Joe, we are going to be playing with the mariachi, the symphony." And I was like, oh, I got like really excited. I'm like, wow, mariachi and symphony together. At that time, I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen that or even conceptualized the thought of that. And then he said it. We're going to be playing with Mariachi Cobre. Poof. Them being my favorite group already, my mouth hit the floor and it was like, oh my gosh, my teacher and my favorite mariachi are going to be playing together. And so, there were 3 tickets there. My parents and I went to the concert and I got to see Cobre again. And I got to see my teacher right there behind him. And it was just like one of the most amazing nights of my life. And of course, we got to talk to the guys afterwards, and I got to talk to, my teacher as well. And it was just, for me, that was just an amazing night of my life. So then I get to college, and I auditioned for the symphony there. And then what I didn't realize was that I was kind of auditioning for 2 things: for the symphony in general, the Las Cruces Symphony Orchestra, but also to play in our opening concert that was outside of our regular series. You would never guess who that concert was with. Or maybe you would. Mariachi Cobre. And so, of course, I find that out and I'm like, oh, man. Like, how cool is this? So now, just a few years after seeing my teacher perform with them, now I'm on the opposite side of that, performing with them, and getting that aspect of it and playing their orchestra charts and being able to play and try not to get distracted by watching them, at the same time. And that was just a really cool part of my life as well. And so all of that time was very exciting for me. I started playing with the group Mariachi Los Arrieros from El Paso, Texas. And there I got to kind of season myself in playing in playing shows and kind of upping the level of the mariachi. And it was really neat to be able to experience getting to know these professional musicians, Mariachi Cobre, Sol de Mexico, Los Camperos, Mariachi Vargas. I mean, just getting to be involved in putting those productions together with them and being a part of those productions. So that kind of seasoned me in that way. And of course, at the same time I was going to school, eventually, this time I met my to-be wife, and then I started teaching. Okay? So for the last 5 years of my time there in El Paso, Las Cruces area, I was teaching mariachi and playing with arrieros. And when I was able to do that, I kind of realized sort of where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go in life. And so I was constantly working forward, trying to be better, working forward, trying to be better. And this is about the time when I think that something flipped in my attitude, okay? And it can be good until it goes to a certain point. But the rigorousness of how I worked was, I think, more, instead of based on improvement, it was based on getting out of where I didn't want to be. Okay, and this is just a personal, artistic place, okay, of where I wanted to be. And I think with that, I set up a never-ending feedback overtone of outside stress leaking its way into my own self-identity. Okay, and this is where you have to understand this is where the key component, I think, that causes dystonia. Okay, and I think that a lot of dystonians will be able to connect with me on this moment, or on this kind of thing. When it comes to stress being involved into the development of dystonia. Okay, and I'm not saying that I had dystonia back then, but this is where that trigger point, and it's all in here, but it's coming from out there, okay? So that being said, I finally get the opportunity to play with Mariachi Cobre. And of course, this is a super exciting time in my life. I auditioned to get there, I made it, and now, it's like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is amazing and it's exciting. It was exciting for me and my wife to try something different and do something new. But I mean, also I'm playing for Mariachi Cobre. This is like, if I look at all the pinpoint moments of my life, the first group I heard, I was enamored by them, and I would always go back to their sound. That was the ideal sound for mariachi for me. Okay, and then I made the connection with my high school teacher, and he promoted them so much, and it was like, oh, this is great. He likes them too. And then my my private music teacher, is supportive of my love for mariachi and other genres of music, and then he gets excited to tell me that they're going to play on stage with them, and then I get to play on stage with them as part of the orchestra, as an orchestra musician, and then I am blessed to join Mariachi Los Arrieros, and then we get to know them more and play shows with them. To finally this pinpoint, it happened. It happened, and so. It was just like, okay. And I think this happening put a little bit of relief in me. So that first year was just amazing for me, musically speaking, artistically speaking. It had its challenges, of course. We moved, and then my wife had to. She was here with me for a few months, and then she had to go back, finish up school. She was gone for 6 months, so that was difficult. But artistically and musically speaking, it was like, obviously it was a dream come true. I get to learn from these guys, and I get to add what I feel like I have to add, and it was fun and exciting, and we played shows, and it was like the coolest thing. And then we got to play at the park, and it was like that was really cool too. And I got to just play music every single day of my life, and that was my living. I was like, wow, how can it get any better than this? And then it happened. The second year, and we had several concerts that year. And I'm not going to say which one specifically that it happened at, because that's personal to me. But it was like a ton of bricks hit me on the head. And it was like 2 songs into that concert. I still remember that. And it was like my entire world shifted. Ton of bricks. I realized where I was, what I was doing, what my life had been for the last year. And it was like, I felt like I almost didn't know where I was. And it was like reality and non-reality were like this in my head for that concert. And it was me like trying to catch up. Like, whoa, what happened? Like, what happened? What happened? Nothing. I didn't do anything. It literally just poof. I don't know what happened, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. And that's when that kind of like rigor type of mentality, that never ending overtone of just like fight, earn, keep, earn, that's when that came back. And that's a huge issue. And that's what we're going to pick up in the second segment. So this is where music students, this is where you really need to start paying attention. Because if you can avoid this, it's going to be extremely good for you. Okay? So your mind is very important. It's a very important part. But so is this. Yourself, your soul, your person. Okay? So we'll see you in segment 2. All right, everybody, welcome back to the second segment of the second episode of Letting Go. And once again, I want to thank everybody for all of your supports and all of your wonderful comments. They definitely help me to keep me on the right track here. And hopefully this remains to be something that is informational and very hopeful to all of you that are watching and following this story. And so now I'm picking up, after that experience, the ton of bricks experience. And, you kind of, you realize at that moment, like I was saying, it was like a reality and an unreality hitting together and me kind of trying to make sense of where I was. And that flipped me over again to that trying to earn, like as if I hadn't already earned being there, not just the audition process, but I mean, it wasn't like I didn't know what I was doing. It wasn't like I didn't play well. It wasn't none of that stuff. But it was like none of that stuff matters. To me, it wasn't good enough. That's a huge problem. And I know that my fellow Dystonians can relate to that. But even maybe some of you without dystonia might be able to relate to that too, and you can cut it out. Because there's this need for things to be deserved and real, but you're imposing that on yourself. It's the outer world that you're perceiving in a very poor manner, to the point where you're letting that, which is fake, dictate to you who you actually are, and you start to self-identify as whatever you think that wants, and these pressures are coming from a lot of different places. Obviously, I uprooted my family. I moved away from my parents, and so those are all pressures that now all of a sudden matter in a way that now I feel like I need to. They affected me musically because I felt like I needed to earn that too. As if it wasn't a mutual decision between, my wife and I to come over here, or like our families weren't in support of it. But all of a sudden now I felt like, oh man, I have to make this worth it now too. And so I need to play the best that I can, and I need to make this, it was like somehow connecting. That's like, what does that have even to do with the music part? It was like everything had to go into my music. Everything was a reason for me to grind and grind and grind. And the weird thing is that some part of me enjoyed it. But that never-ending pressure became too much. It really did. That never-ending pressure became too much. And it wasn't like I was free. You talk to a lot of people that were in the game before you, and it's almost like, you hear them in their older ages, and I guess you hear their stories, and it's almost like they're making it up as they go along, And the truth is that that's really the game. It's not that. It's not that truth is subjective. I'm not trying to suggest that in any way whatsoever. But they're just playing. They're just playing. And that's what life is, right? I mean, when life, you don't change the rules on purpose, but when life throws you a curveball, that, hey, go, you got to go with it. You got to go with it. And that's exactly, even in a later spectrum of thinking, that's what you have to do with dystonia as well. So it's a really good learning process. It's like dystonia is that last bit, like, dude, if you don't learn to go roll with the punches, then you're not going to get through this, because I can guarantee you, especially speaking to my fellow dystonians, you probably weren't that good with rolling with the punches before, were you? Yeah, probably not. And so this makes, of course, performances not as enjoyable as they can be. You're trying too much. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard to please whatever you think you're going to please, or to stay at whatever level you think you're supposed to be at, or to not make mistakes so that you don't, fall down, into whatever area or level you don't want to be at. That's all some fake, weird reality that doesn't actually exist. You are at the level that you're at, and that is what it is. And you can better yourself. You can always better yourself. But that shouldn't be driven out of any type of stress or fear. It is what it is. You play, you study, you get better, and that's whatever rate it's at. And that's just it. Other than that, you're not being true to yourself. You know, God made us very special. He gave us souls. He infused us with life in that manner. And each one of us is slightly different from the rest. And there's no way to compare that from anybody else. You know, there are the objective rules of, you know, playing and all of those kinds of things. But then there is the reality that you are different from the guy next to you, which is why you can give a cook the same recipe. You can give 3 different cooks exactly the same recipe, and it's going to come out different. It's just going to come out different, you know. So, you know, that cook, what is he going to try for? Is he going to try and make it taste like theirs, or is he going to try and just, you know, just I don't know what the word is, but bring himself out in his cooking, and that it is what it is, and he lays it on the table, and that's it, and that's it. And the thing is that you're at where you're at because you deserve to be there. You know, more than likely, you have gone through the certain avenues that God has allowed, and you are placed into this place. And the thing is that if you feel like you have done it alone, then that means that you've probably worked too hard at it. You've worked too much, and you have not been efficient with your energy, and you probably haven't respected yourself along the way as well. And these are some harsh realities that are good to come into grips with, because they're going to free you if you can let yourself out of this cage that you have caged yourself into. Okay? Now, why is this all important? Because this stuff can become obsessive, you know. The guys used to tell me a lot during breaks, you know, hey man, take a break, you know. And I always used to just say, I just love to play, you know, don't stop me from playing. I just love to play. I love to play. And they were joking, but maybe they were even halfway joking, like, no, dude, really take a break, you know. And but the truth is that, you know, now retrospect, when I think about it, why wasn't I giving myself a break? I loved performing outside, but why was I constantly trying to get better? It's not that progression is a bad thing, you know, but the reasoning behind your progression, you know, it shouldn't be to avoid things. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be for anything but the sake of just adding, you know, but not in a, not in a desperate, it's a very delicate subject, I guess, because I'm not trying to suggest that you shouldn't practice. I'm not trying to suggest that any of that stuff, okay? What I am trying to suggest, though, is that the meaning of your practice has got to be focused. Focused in a way that doesn't make you a negative person, okay? And understanding that the stage and performance and the musical life in general, the professional musical life in general, is just about being organic with your other bandmates, with a soloist, with other musicians, and things kind of bounce off of each other. And you offer whatever you offer that day. You know, every single day is different. So it can't be out of a desperation to be better. It can't be out of a desperation to be good. It can't be out of a desperation to not fail. Okay? It can't be out of a fear of messing up or forgetting notes or what have you. That's not why you should be practicing at all. Okay? So now, why is that important? That's because if you notice, all of those things are based on outside influences. So that's you allowing the outside to force itself onto your identity. And the reason why I know this is because when you get dystonia and you realize it's dystonia, you have no idea. The first thing that goes is your self-identity. You have no idea who you are. And that is a fact. For every single person that gets dystonia, they don't know who they are. And that's a very, very ugly place to be, let me tell you. It sucks. It sucks. It is horrible. And that doesn't even begin to describe it. Okay? There are too many awful adjectives that I would have to use to maybe give it 50% of what it actually is. But that's what you've done to yourself. And that constant stress, remember I was talking about it kind of like feedback. It's a loop. It's a loop that just keeps on going, a black hole. The nervous system, scientifically speaking, is not meant for that. The nervous system is meant to get you to make a decision, okay? To make one decision or the other in a state of danger, okay? That's what the nervous system is for, okay? You either need to fight or you need to go away, like run away, fly. Okay, flight. Fight or flight. I'm sure you've heard that before. The problem is that when you're stuck in that loop for too long, pretty soon you can't. And I'm sure in smaller doses, people have come through this realization. Like, so it's like when you think about something too long, right? Whether it's, okay, I got one. I got a good analogy. So you're going on the highway, right? And then you're like, wait. So you're like, okay, you don't remember if it's this exit or the next one. So you're like, oh no. And you're thinking, but then too many things into your head and you're like, well, no, then what happens? Then you're stuck. You're stuck. You can't make a decision. Okay. You can't make a decision to move. And yeah, you might stay on this lane, but it's not because you chose to, it's because you couldn't make a decision one way or the other. So you froze. Okay. That's kind of the placement neurologically or mentally speaking, psychologically speaking, with dystonia. You're in a freeze state, which is constant stress, okay? Which is why so many dystonians, whether it's embouchure or whatever, muscles are tight in more areas than just the affected place, okay? Whether it's your hand or your lips, you can assess your body, and there's a lot of areas that need work, okay? So that's essentially what it's a breakdown of the nervous system is what has happened. The nervous system's on overload, and so it's got to do something, so it shuts down. It shuts you down, and it shuts down whatever it perceives as the most dangerous, so to speak. And some of this is figurative, okay? But that's essentially what is going on. All right? And so when the nervous system shuts down, it's basically taking, and this is focal dystonia specifically speaking, okay? Because this is the development of something over time, okay? Whereas a more generalized dystonia, I'm not an expert in that. I don't know if this plays any type of role in that, but this is based specifically on a certain task that your body is relating to a certain amount of stress or pressure, and it's constant, okay? So that's why they say for focal dystonia, the repetitiveness of it, so that's why it affects professional athletes, professional musicians, professional, typists and court reporters, or all those kinds of things. Something that you do a lot at very high rate of efficiency, very repetitively, and it is your mind, I believe, that has brought all of that stress onto that. And that is why it's your body's pretty much like, okay, it's doing too much to jump in to help. And so it's because it doesn't like what's going on. So you buckle. Now here's the thing, is the body is amazing, right? And the mind is amazing. So you still cognitively know how to play the instrument. So you know the motions, but you're buckled, you're tight. And it's nothing that you can control, because again, this is your nervous system. So this isn't a cognitive decision. This is your nervous system saying, Psh. So what happens? It's that you're basically are like, I can do this and I can't do this at the same time. So what happens? You get all of these motions to try and help. Your body is trying to jump in to help you do what you think you can't do, And this is why you get all the tight motions and all of the dystonic, what they call dystonic movements, because you still know the fact that you do have to get through the song, and your body's trying to figure out a way to do it. Okay, but anybody with dystonia can tell you that as soon as they pick up their instrument, that anticipation starts, and the original dystonic movement starts to happen. In my case, when I started to learn how to play, when dystonia took course, and I would pick up my instrument right away, this would happen. Okay, so before I knew I had dystonia, but I felt like something was wrong, I would talk to my chiropractor and all that, and I say, I don't know what's going on, but these two fingers tend to kind of want to go down. Once I knew it was dystonia, as soon as I'd pick up my instrument, I would immediately get that feeling even before I started to play. Okay, so there's a lot of cognition that goes into this, all right? And that's really what it is. It's a breakdown of the nervous system. So how do we rebuild that? That's exactly what this series is for, okay? So from now on, these episodes are going to kind of play a little bit differently than the first two. And I'm going to be going through, my experiences. So there's going to be a lot of older clips of me playing. There's going to be a lot so from before dystonia, during dystonia, and then there's going to be a lot of clips of me now. And then I'll also get on, probably I'll do some short live sessions as well, just new things that I'm finding. So thank you once again for joining me. Again, take care of yourselves, take care of your body, take care of your mind and your soul. Your nervous system is something that is supposed to be a tool. And so don't beat it up. Don't beat any of yourself up, okay? I'm not going to get cheesy, but you are a gift. You are a gift from God. But first and foremost, you're a gift to yourself from God. Okay? And then if you realize that, then you can be a gift to other people. And that's the whole point. And that's how you make the world a better place. That's how you make the world a good place. But you first have to realize that God gave you as a gift to yourself. Your life is a gift to you. So the fact that you exist even is an amazing thing. It's more amazing than even getting to live your life's dream. So when you get to live your life's dream, or anything close, that's extremely special. So on that note, we'll see you guys later. See you on the next episode with exciting new content. Again, the past, the struggle, and then meeting Focal Dystonia. We'll see you. Bye. This is good for anybody with dystonia or without dystonia. But it kind of helps with the mind and with the physical ability. So first thing, if you have hand dystonia, all right, I want you to first do this in your healthy hand, okay? And then if you have like embouchure dystonia, then really this is going to be more for the mental processes involved. But still do it in both hands, okay? But if you do have hand dystonia, do it in your healthy hand first, okay? So I have dystonia in my left hand, so I'm going to do this with my right hand first. So the first thing, and actually, it's because of this that I've totally retrained the way I teach a bow hold, okay? So, and I don't change the bow hold itself, but this is what I do. So I'm going to do it in the bow hold form, okay, if you don't mind. But you can, if you don't play violin, like if you're a guitarist or something, that's cool. Just go ahead and hold it like a fist, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to hold you can find a pencil, or I chose this because it's bright so that you can see it on the screen. But you can choose a pencil or some kind of stick or something like that. Not very heavy, okay? And you're going to hold it, okay? And you're going to squeeze as much as you can, okay? And then you're just going to loosen your grip. You're just going to let your muscles loosen. So loosen to the point where it's just naturally loose, okay? And I want you to do that one more time. And again, this is why I want, if you have dystonia in your left hand, okay, do it in the right hand. If you have dystonia in the right hand, do it in the left hand, all right? Again, you're going to squeeze. And again, if you're doing it as a fist, you're just going to squeeze, okay? And then you're just going to loosen. Just loosen to the point of natural, Okay, and the truth is that it shouldn't fall out if you just loosen your hand to its natural loose state. Okay, same thing with the bow hold. Loosen to a natural loose state. Okay, if you have a healthy bow hold, it shouldn't do anything. Okay, it shouldn't fall. Then the next step, loosen it. Keep on loosening until it does fall. Okay, and this is why you want a small object light. And then you might want to do it over a carpet or a couch or something like that, okay? Do it again. Do it again. So I'm going to squeeze all the way. Then I'm going to loosen to the point of just regular loose. It shouldn't fall yet. And then I'm going to make a point to loosen my hand up until it finally just slips out, okay? Now, I'm going to try that like this so you can see it with a fist. So you loosen up into the point that's pretty natural. Okay, then you're just going to keep on loosening your hand slowly. Okay? And all you're doing is focusing on letting go. You're not focusing on raising your fingers. You're focusing on the inside of the hand, kind of. Okay, you're focusing on just loosening. Okay? And it's very relaxed. You don't think about, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? It's just loosening your hand. So squeeze, loosen. Okay, now you're at that level, and then just relax the rest of your hand, opening it up. Okay, that might have got loud. I think this hit the mic. Okay, now go to your dystonic hand. Okay, or your other hand if you don't have dystonia in your hands. Okay, and now things might feel a little bit different. Okay, you might notice, like right now, I actually feel a strength here in this area, which is pretty typical because that's I've been doing that for 2 years. So this forearm is very strong. So I can definitely feel that muscle more present than say in this hand, in this arm. So that's normal. So just take note of that and just kind of just let it be what it is. Okay, and then do the same thing. Okay, and you might notice that it's a little more clumsy, but you're just thinking about relaxation. Okay, it might be a little more slow to develop. And then once it kind of stops, don't necessarily force, but just open up your hand. Open up your hand, and you might feel them shake. You might feel your muscles sort of twitch, and that's okay. All right, that's okay. But you're definitely going to notice that it is delayed or slower, okay? Or more clumsy or not as fluid to open up, okay? And to start out, you don't have to necessarily squeeze completely as hard like you did with your non-dystonic hand, okay? But you just want to get used to that feeling of what it feels like to be in the neutral position, open up. And let these muscles feel what it takes for those to get there and to stay there, okay? And so that's a nice little exercise. Don't do it for too long, and don't do it to the point where you get tired. All right, have fun with that. And hey, let go. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Letting Go. And of course, I thank you for your support through this journey of focal dystonia. And please like and subscribe, and of course, share the message. And stay tuned for future episodes, methods, lessons, and thoughts. We'll see you soon. God bless.